Have you seen The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix yet? If not, you need to go watch it. It's actually terrifying. They did such a good job of portraying a haunted house, the story behind it, and just how the entire thing affects the family. It's absolutely incredible. You should go watch it right now after this podcast, is what I mean. So, I don't know if you noticed, but I switched to Mondays for the podcast because I realized a lot of people listen to these when they're on their way to work, on their way to school, things like that. So I kind of figured, why don't I make that more convenient for you guys and, give you something to look forward to on the first day of work of that week, even though this one's coming to you late on a Monday. So sorry about that. It's my bad. But this episode is actually meant to be a part of a documentary I'm working on, but we decided to go with a different interview than this one, so I decided, hey, why not just make this into a podcast episode, because that's essentially what these are. It's just one big documentary interview kind of thing. So this week on the podcast, I am joined by the most handsome man on the planet, Ryan Sofie. He is a tour manager. He was also the assistant production manager for Vans Warped Tour. And if you missed last week's episode of the podcast, I actually sat down with Kevin Lyman, the founder of the Vans Warped Tour. So please go check that out if you haven't. If you would like to support Project Freelance, hey, at least hit that subscribe button. Give me a rating. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. If you want to come back next week, come back next week. If not, it's fine. But I'm sure you'll want to come back next week after you hear this episode. If you are interested in being a tour manager, if you want to get to the production side of the music industry or the theater or any industry, really, if you want to get involved with production, check this episode out. Ryan Sofie, I met him through We the Kings a few years ago, and I've just kind of stayed in touch with him, and he was on Warped Tour 2017, as was I. So I ended up filming this documentary about him, as I said at the beginning of this. And so this is one of the interviews I did with Ryan Sofie that probably won't be in the actual documentary. So enjoy it. And if you guys would like to further support the podcast, there are several links down below that could help you with things like adulting, tracking your mileage, getting your expenses in check. And if you're a filmmaker, photographer, there's a lot of stuff down there for discounts for Adobe products or DJI equipment or camera gear. I have a bunch of gear for sale. Find me on Instagram at no.tracers or at k.inagonio. Everything's down in the description. I'm going to stop talking. Let's get into this episode of Project Freelance. Thank you guys for listening to another week. Ryan, let's do this.
Hi, my name's Ryan Sofie. I am the assistant production manager for the Vans Warped Tour. How I got started in music, I came out to California on vacation, and my first friends were in the industry. Sports was my background, and quickly realized that music was my new passion. Just doing whatever they needed help with, pushing cases, whatever. I was managing at a bank, and hold on.
You're good. You're
totally
good.
like
no, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Total going into. I just feel like I'm gonna be going into blabber mode.
It's
like
fine.
I need
blabber
to
away.
Okay. So, let me start fresh.
Okay.
So, take two. Okay, my name is Ryan Sofie. I am the assistant production manager for the Vans Warped Tour. How I got started in the industry, I moved to California. I was managing at a bank and made friends that were had been in the industry for a long time, and they would need help every so often. It didn't really matter what it was. I just knew I loved being around it. So eventually transitioned into the music world, and I was fortunate to have friends that have been in it a long time and got me my first job as a tour manager. So kind of jumped in and didn't really look back.
Talk about going out on your first tour, what that experience was like. The good and bad, like mental health of it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the first tour I did was with Trace Cyrus of Metro Station. as his tour manager, as a driver. I sold merch. I did security for him. I was the stage manager and the techs. A little everything. So my first tour, I was prepped really well from all my friends. But as prepped as you can be, you never really know what's going to happen on the road. So it was a good crash course for my first tour. Learned a lot and took that and just kind of grew from there. So.
And then go up to Warped Tour, meeting Carrie in Australia. How you got involved with Warped Tour?
Okay, so I was over in Australia and doing a tour, and my Live Nation rep there was Carrie Nicholson, who at that time I had no idea was associated with Warped Tour. So at the end of the tour, he asked what I was up to, and I told him I was doing my first Warped Tour with We the Kings. And he's like, well, looks like we're going to be seeing you all summer then. And found out he's the production manager for the tour. And he'd invite me up on his bus for coffee, which for people that don't know is a pretty big deal out there. So I was fortunate enough, or he just kind of took me under his wing, and he and I became friends. And later, Jager, he was the assistant production manager of the tour for about 9 years, decided that he was going to hang it up. So Carrie gave me a call, and I jumped in there.
What was it like going on your first tour, Warped Tour in 2014 with the Kings, like having gone from, Trey Cyrus to like something as big and like lengthy as Warped Tour?
Yeah, well, I think I'd done 1 or 2 tours with the Kings at that point. But yeah, jumping on Warped Tour, not really knowing what to expect either. Like, I really didn't know, like, from the band side, crew side, like, you don't really know what you're getting into if you've never done it before. It's a pretty big beast. It's weathering the elements. You're sharing facilities with 1,000+ people. The weather, it's like 100+ pretty much every single day. It's not for everybody. But the Kings are like brothers. They're awesome dudes, and had a ton of fun with them. The crew that we had together, all amazing friends of mine. So I had fun. So it was definitely a good experience, and from that year on, I've done it since. So
talk about the mental side of touring, like how that comes into play.
The mental side of touring, definitely. There's the ups and downs that you don't really have a lot of space, a lot of alone time. So it's like you need to find your ways to decompress. If there is issues, I've found to like head them straight on. Otherwise it will fester and just kind of like ruins the dynamic of the group. So being a tour manager, that's part of my job too, is to make sure everybody is good. If there is some sort of issue, then I'm going to be the one that's going to jump in there and have the uncomfortable conversations. But so you gotta basically
So as a tour manager, you have a lot of responsibility. Like, you're taking care of your band, and like band members go through, like a lot of artists are bipolar, get depression on tour. Like, how do you go about handling that and like keeping your personal yourself out of it, but trying to help them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, being a tour manager, there's a lot of aspects that go into it other than just making sure the tour runs properly. It's you're managing individual personalities. It's you got your artists, you have your crew, you have your bus driver. Like, you have everybody that you have to kind of like make sure is good and even keeled. So with artists specifically, they're at the end of the day they're the boss, so it's like you are most attentive to them, and then obviously you want your crew and everybody doing well too. So you just, I've found to just pull people aside or find the right moments to like be very personal with them and find out what the issue is, or it can be a good thing too. It's like just pull them aside. Hey, you're crushing it. You're doing an awesome job. Just make sure that they know that. Everybody likes to hear that, right? Yeah, it's you're kind of a therapist out there too. It's part of the job. So just have to be very open with everybody, and just I've found pretty much everybody I work with is felt like family by the end of it. So it's like just being yourself and being real with them, and just being like genuine and like concerned about them. They feel more comfortable with you, and that spreads.
So take me to 2017 Warped Tour, going from being a tour manager to doing production.
Okay, so yeah, leading up to the 27 Warped Tour, I'd done tour managing, so jumping into a whole nother scale of production managing for an entire festival is a whole different beast there. It's fortunate that Jager prepped me really well. I only had a couple days with him to show me the ropes, so it was a crash course. He did a fantastic job with prepping me, but yeah, it's essentially getting out there and just kind of like learning how everything should flow, and making sure that we get open for doors on time. And Kevin likes to open doors early, so it's like it's like rushes it for everybody, but you just have to make it work. So it was a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of that first year that I did it. It was stressful, but after a little while, like anything, you get used to it. You understand the flow of things. So yeah, had it by the end of the tour. It was second nature. Yeah.
Take me through a day on Warped Tour with you.
All right, so a day on Warped Tour, basically Sully would get off the bus. The security team would get off the bus, I should say, because Sully was there this year, half the year, and then Bobby D took over. But yeah, the security team would do a scan. Carrie and I would get off the bus. He would set the site, essentially set all the trucks, all the stages, and once he was done with that, then I would take over and lead the load-in for the festival. So basically I'm scanning the entire site. Each stage has its stage manager in control of their little world, and essentially I would have to be going around the universe and making sure everything was being put up properly and like on time, and each day was like it's the same, like we're doing the same thing, but it's a different puzzle every single day. It's like we're dealing with, sometimes we're in parking lots, sometimes we're in dirt, sometimes we're in grass fields, and sometimes it's downpouring. It's just like a lot of different elements that we're dealing with, but so I'm just scanning the site. I'm in charge of 70 local crew every single day, which that can be a little tough. It's like not a lot of them are used to that type of festival, so and how it works. So it's herding cats sometimes, and it's loud, and it's like it can be a whole thing. But if you have a good crew chief, it makes it a lot better. But so essentially they help with getting the sponsorship world up and all the stages up, and then there'd be forklifts that I'm in charge of, and if you hear the radio in the morning, it's like my radio is popping off because it's like everybody needs them. So essentially I'm scanning the site, making sure prioritizing where things, if someone's calling it from one stage, but I know we're far behind on another stage, then I have to make sure it's like, all right, hold off, I'll get to you. Give me 10 minutes and I'll get to you. So it's just knowing where we're at, knowing what time it is, and what's behind and what's on time, and it's it can be a lot, but again, it's like once you do it for a while, then you kind of know the flow and what you need to do to make sure you're open for doors on time. And then this year I started helping Matt Malice, who is the business accountant for the entire tour. So they added a cool element to jump in there and see what it's like to handle the accounting for such a massive festival. And Matt's awesome at it. So that was really fun for me to be in the office with Matt and Carrie and Junior, who runs the Klieg, the staging company that we use out there. Fun guys to be around. So kind of broke my day up being in an air-conditioned office, which is nice compared to being outside in 100-degree weather. So once I'd be done with that, then I'd lead the loadout. So about 6:30, I have the local crew come back and start putting the work with the sponsorship world. They break down sponsorship world. And then as each stage finished, then I'd break them off, jump on stage to break it down. So we'd be done probably around 10:30 almost every night. So get off the bus at 7-ish, be done at 10:30 at night. Busy days, but always have a good time.
So what did you do on days off of Warped Tour? Or like any day off of tour? Like what's your thing? Like what do you do like typically?
So our bus kind of splits off. Carrie's a legend of the tour. Whatever Carrie does and wherever he takes us, he hijacks us essentially. He takes our bus to a different spot than everybody's going to, but it's usually really fun. So usually just relax and chill, because I'm walking probably an average of 15 miles a day. So your body needs a little time to recoup. So sleep in a little bit later, and then we always set up. Carrie likes to eat at fancy places, so we always have like a really nice dinner, family dinner with everybody that's on our bus. So yeah, it's mostly just relaxing, to be honest.
Talk about the last year of Warped Tour and like how like the morale was, how big of a deal it was, like what the turnout was like, and like how it feels to have been on like the final run.
Yeah, so last year Warped Tour was honestly probably the most fun I've had touring to the date. It was like just such an awesome vibe. Bittersweet for so many people that have been on it forever. So it's just everybody was in a great mood. The shows were selling really well. Everybody's making money. It's like from the top down, it's like everybody was having a blast. And for me personally, I established myself in the production world. So I had, all my production family, and then this year that in particular, so many of the bands and crew guys I had worked with in the past. So literally would walk around the entire place, and it's just like saying hi to friends all day while I'm working, and then taking the little breaks and catching up with everybody. And yeah, it was just a really fun, awesome year. It's like couldn't have asked for anything better, I don't think.
What has Warped Tour done for your career? Like being on the tour and like connections you made, things like that.
Warped Tour obviously brings so many different elements and people together. It's you become friends with everybody. So I think everybody who's on the tour knows, like, once you're done with it, it's your Facebook page, you starts getting like friend requests from like from like half the tour. I think everybody can relate to that one. But you make so many friends, and everybody needs help at some point. So you get a lot of phone calls to, like, for this one, 303 is going out in a bit, so it's like they're good buddies. I've worked with them on one of the Warp Tours, so just reconnected with them on this one, so going out with them. But also on like the scale of helping run a massive festival that has opened the door to work for other companies that run festivals too. So just kind of like in the phase of what direction do I want to go? Do I want to stick with the band side, or do you want to do the festival side, or do both, which is kind of my mindset at the moment. So
what's something you know now that you wish you knew when you started all of this?
All of Warped Tour?
Yeah.
Oh, something I know now. I guess I would have, knowing that it was coming to an end, I would have I think I would have, my previous years of doing it, I loved it, but it's kind of one of those tours like you love and you hate, just because it is kind of brutal. Like the first couple weeks everybody's stoked and in a good mood, and then all of a sudden you can just see it kind of like decline a little bit. It's like, oh, I want to go home. It's like it's another day of being hot and sweaty and 100+ degree weather, and I think those are the moments. It's like just you're gonna miss everything. So I think savor it a little bit more. I would have taken it in. It's like that's why I think this year was so great, is everybody realized it was the last year. It's like everybody's taking in. There's so many moments where I was just kind of taken back, and I'm probably not going to be in this same scene ever again. So it kind of overwhelms you in the moment. But that's probably what I think the previous years. Oh, Zeus. Sorry.
Say that last thing again. I don't even know what you said.
Yeah, I wish I guess I would have. I would have savored each moment a little bit more in the previous years. Is he in the shot?
Just his ear, top of his head. Oh, there he is.
Oh, Jesus. You want to be in the shot? Oh, yeah, he always tries to get in.
For kids that want to get into touring, that were inspired by Warped Tour, want to do tour managing or get into production, what would you advise them to do?
Go ahead.
Please, come here.
He's fine.
Come hang out with me.
Yeah, hang over there. Say again? Sorry.
No, you're good. For kids that want to get into touring, as far as tour managing or production, or really any aspect of being on tour, what advice would you give them? How should they start? How should they get into it? That kind of thing.
To be honest, I don't know if there's a specific recipe on how you start or how you get into the industry. It's just, you got to put yourself out there, volunteer your time. If it's for merch or whatever it can be. Maybe it's a local venue that you can go and start volunteering your time, just being around bands that are coming through town. Essentially, hard work is what gets you to the top. So if you can get your foot in the door somewhere, just work your butt off. It's like that will get you to the next level. And remember, it's a job, because it's really easy to cross lines, because you become friends with the artists, and I've seen it, some people forget that it's not just a party out there. Not necessarily well, fuck that one up. Cut. Okay. Yeah, it's not just a party out there. You have a job, there's a reason you're out there. So working your butt off is probably my biggest tip, is just be a hard worker. Yeah.
Touch on relationships on the road and how that goes.
Personal relationships?
Or just, personal relationships, or dating someone while on tour, and how complicated that shit can be. You're let's talk.
Therapy session now. yeah, relationships. Trying to have like personal relationships while you're on the road is pretty difficult to do. In the sense that okay, so if you meet somebody and you really like them, you're like, all right, we're connected, but I have to be on the road for a couple months. Don't get lonely or don't meet anybody. Okay? That rarely works. So it's really tough so you really need to be around each other to form a solid bond that you need to have a healthy relationship. And trust is obviously a tough thing too, because it's a bad rap being in the music industry. For some people, rightfully so, but there are some good girls and guys out there. So yeah, it's just it's really hard to maintain a healthy relationship. But that being said, I've worked with plenty of artists and crew guys that are married and have been dating for a long time, have kids, and it's like you figure it out. You make it work, and with platforms like FaceTime and like you can maintain contact every single day and see each other's faces, and it makes it a little bit easier, but still it is tough. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Message for Kevin and or the crew of Warped Tour.
Yeah. Okay. So for all of my other crew guys, Warped Tour crew guys, top to bottom, it's been an awesome ride. All of you are so awesome. It made it so much better going around and seeing everybody's faces every single day, and just like connecting with everybody out there. A lot of people, like, everybody comes from such different backgrounds too, so it's really cool to have such a family vibe in such a unique setting. Like, there's nothing else like Vans Warped Tour. Yeah. And thank you to Kevin for making that happen. Like that, 24 years of it is pretty crazy. And it's like I was there right in the middle of it for Pennywise, the last band to ever play on stage. Jumped on there. It was a surreal moment. So thank you, Kevin and Carrie, for bringing me into the production world on things. So thank you, and I love you all.
Good night. Good night, Boston.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another episode of Project Freelance. Thank you guys for checking this episode out. The documentary that I made about Ryan will be out shortly. I'm just finishing it up. We know we are working out all the little kinks, the tweaks, and even though this is something I filmed for myself, I want Ryan's approval on it, so I want him to be happy with the final product as well, which is why this interview might not be in the final doco, but it's still going to be the same. It's the same kind of, talking points. But if you guys want to check any of this stuff out, if you want to check out the documentaries I make or any content I make, you can go to justtheletterk.com. And if you want to check out videos specifically, you can go to youtube.com/justtheletterk. Super simple. I will talk to you guys next week on the podcast. Let me know who you want me to talk to. If you want me to talk to you on this podcast, if you want to do an on-air Skype session with me about whatever you want to learn, photo, video, music, there's all kinds of things. Head to justtheletterk.com. And let me know what you guys think of the podcast. Talk to you soon. Later.